Hey there guys, today I'm going to show you how to make my homemade pizza dough. It's not exactly my recipe. I started with the recipe I found online years ago, but I've modified it. So pretty much is my recipe at this point. Let's get to it. Alright, so in this video I'm going to show you how to make some pizza dough from scratch. Super awesome stuff, customized to my liking. You could make it however you want, but over the years this is just kind of how I've honed it in. You can get started. Start out with all your ingredients, your all-purpose flour, yeast, sugar, got right here, salt, garlic powder, we got oregano and basil, olive oil, and water, which I will grab. So you start out by taking a cup of warm water and dissolving some yeast in it. And I'm going to go grab that right now. Cup of water. Heat it up. Alright, now it's important that the water's not too hot, because if it's too hot the yeast will not activate. If it's too cold, the yeast will also not activate. So about 45 seconds in the microwave usually does the trick with cold water. It's not going to burn you, but it's definitely pretty warm. Put that in there. Take my 1 tablespoon of active dry yeast. Sprinkle that in there. And then after I do that, I let it sit for about 10-15 minutes just for the yeast to activate. Set my timer. I will throw a little bit of sugar in there as well, because it usually speeds up the process if you do so. The yeast likes sugar. So I will put my 1.5 teaspoons of sugar in at this point. Half. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just mix it around a little bit. Whisk it. And then let it sit. Just leave that. Alright, it's been about 15 minutes. The yeast looks really good. It's definitely risen, nice and foamy. That's what you want to look for. If the water was too cold or too hot, like I said, it would not have done that. So yeah, it's the most important thing. Next step, so this next order doesn't really matter, but I like to add my oregano, and I usually throw a little bit of basil in there as well, and some garlic. And it's roughly a teaspoon, about half a teaspoon or so of garlic, and about a half a teaspoon of each. Alright, I'm going to add my salt. 3/4 teaspoon. Kosher salt's what I like to use. Extra virgin olive oil is what I like to use. 2 tablespoons. And the last ingredient I'm going to add is going to be flour. After you mix this up a little bit, it's going to be roughly 2 cups. usually put that first cup in, mix it around slowly or it'll splash out everywhere. And then the second cup, you may not use quite all of it, just depends how accurate you were with your liquid measurements. You might use a little more than 2 cups. So you kind of add it slowly until it forms into a dough consistency. Work it around like this. It's about perfect. Just keep working it. Mix it really well. So all the flour, all the dry flour is visibly mixed in. And it looks about perfect. I don't have to add any extra liquid. Take my baking sheet. Spray a medium coat of pan on it. Take a little bit of flour, sprinkle that on there evenly. Good amount. You don't want it to stick. You take your pizza dough, scoop it out right onto the pan there. Put a little flour on top. Don't want it to stick to the rolling pin. Grab your rolling pin. Roll it out. Oops, sticking to the pin. Didn't put enough flour on it. Nice thing about doing it on a sheet like this is that it's all contained. Almost no cleanup. And the edges work well to keep the dough on there when you're rolling it out. Putting a little more flour on there. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I usually roll it out about 1/4 inch or so, maybe a little thinner than that. Roughly 1/4 inch. Can be as thin as 1/8 inch if you want it real thin. Doesn't have to be perfect. Then at this point you can make your crust. You can roll it out a little flatter and pinch up your crust, make a crust there. But I usually just leave it. I don't really care about that. I just lay it out. Pan pizzas are good. And then you're all set. All you got to do is, at this point, I like to preheat the oven to 450 and put the pan on top of the oven for about 20 minutes to a half an hour and let it rise a little bit more. Roughly double in size. And you're good to go. Put your toppings on it. You can put marinara sauce, you can put Alfredo sauce, just about any type of pizza-like sauce you want. And then all your cheese and any other kind of toppings, and bake it for 10 to 15 minutes at 450, and you got a great pizza.